1 in 10 local bus services in the country have been axed in the last 12 months. This despite government promises to improve local transport connectivity as part of the levelling up agenda. Now, this equates to around more than 1,000 registered routes, and this despite the publication of what was called a national bus strategy for England as recently as 2021. Chris Todd is Director of Transport Action Network. Mr. Todd, can you remember anything? I'm afraid I can't recall. What was this national bus strategy and what was it hoped it might bring about? Good morning.
Good morning. The idea behind the strategy was to, I think, put the focus on buses, recognising they are the most used form of public transport, and to, get more people using them. I mean, we need to do that, but the existing situation, it seems like the government is quite happy to sort of be overseeing the running down of public transport and leaving many people completely isolated.
How bad is it, particularly in rural areas, would you say?
Well, it's been bad for a long time, and that's why the National Bus Strategy, when it came out, was a welcome sort of breath of fresh air and the recognition that we needed to do things differently. But unfortunately, since COVID, the Treasury has got its hands on any money that was allocated to improving bus services and claimed that it's been spent that on COVID support, but it hasn't applied those same sort of rules to other areas. But to go back to your original question, I would say it was really bad before because there were many, many villages in the rural areas with no bus services at all, or if they did have a bus service, it was like once or twice a week, which quite honestly is useless in terms of people living decent and, accessible lives.
What does the impact have on those local communities then?
Well, it means that, some people, even in rural areas where everyone thinks everyone drives, not everyone drives still. So those people potentially become completely isolated and cut off and have to rely on, neighbours for lifts, or they just don't really go out and aren't able to access doctors and surgeries and social events very easily. And the other side of it is it puts more people into cars, which leads to faster, busier, more congested rural roads.
It's The Guardian that's done the story today. They've cited as some of the worst places for lack of service as Bath, Sheffield, Lincoln, Stoke-on-Trent and Weston-super-Mare. Have you heard of other places where there's virtually no service?
Not in terms of sort of bigger areas, no. Doesn't mean that there aren't any. I do know that, people have been complaining that, the government's brought in this £2 cap for fares, which is great in one sense, but it's too late, because I know people in Sheffield, for example, are saying, well, it's great, we've got a capped fare, but where's the bus to use it on?
Chris Todd is Director of Transport Action Network. Have you lost your bus service? We'll talk about that. And vehicles rather more robust nature, sending in the tanks to Ukraine. It would appear to be happening. We'll discuss that after this as well. It's 9:30. This is Breakfast with me, Nick Ferrari here on LBC. Let's get the news from Simon Conway.
The German Chancellor Olaf